Life is all about relationships. Lovers, family, body, or money. How satisfied you are can be completely explained by how you relate to things around you. This is Sophie Jaffe, and together with my husband, Dr. Adi Jaffe, we are here to explore and teach you how to maximize your relationships and achieve a happier life. Let's get ignited.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the Ignited podcast. I'm Adi Jaffe.
And I'm Sophie Jaffe.
And we are coming to you straight from our professional recording studio that we travel with.
Yep, super profesh.
Yes.
I'm in pajamas feeding Noah in a hotel room bed next to Adi with an iPhone headset.
There's no video on this. They don't know. We could just keep the lie going all the way.
I mean, professional studio all the way. Right, Noah?
All the way. Yep. Noah is agreeing. So whether you've been following us the last, week and a half or so or not, we are traveling. We're on vacation, hence the hotel room and all that wonderful stuff. It's been an adventure. Mm-hmm. And so,
as it always is.
As it always is. And so along the way, people have been asking travel questions and have been wondering about how we do it. So we're traveling with 3 kids. For some of you, that might sound insane. For others, you're like, oh, only 3. And then some of you are obviously, single or in relationships with no kids. And so we wanted to do a show on travel. Yeah,
travel. And this will be driven more towards traveling with kids and that it is doable and it's just a different experience. But if you are not one with children, that's okay too. There's going to be some useful tips throughout this in how to travel with flexibility. And that's the most important part of this recording is just being flexible and being open to the experiences that life takes you on. And when better to experience those things than on vacation when you're outside of your comfort zone. Our perspective is everything. And even more so, and it's even more heightened when you're out in the world without your comforts.
Yeah, absolutely. And you and I have always loved traveling. We used to travel a lot before we met each other, and then we traveled together. Just
discovering the world, discovering things that are not in your normal everyday life, and learning more about other cultures and people and dynamics and relationships and just the world, just walking around in different places of the world and letting it take you in and offer you experiences.
Totally. And so I know part of this will be kind of our unique way of traveling anyway. Neither Sophie nor I are the itinerary
type. Sort
of, hey, we've got 12 museums and 14 monuments to hit today. Let's wake up at 6 a.m. And so
this is our take on how we travel, and take it or leave it. Take tips. This is definitely all about being flexible. We're gonna first hit on some key points about newborn because I had a lot of questions about how do you travel with a newborn, and some very specific questions. And then I've got tips within that, and then we can kind of open it up for just our general parenting for older kids, bringing them on vacation, but then also just generally when we travel, the way that we kind of see traveling for us.
Sure. And maybe, I should say here, a lot of people were looking at us like, wait, you guys are traveling and Noah's not even 2 months old.
Exactly.
What's wrong with you guys? You're crazy. Hey, I just want to say we've traveled with both of our other kids when they were really young. Not this young, but really, really young.
Yeah, I think Leo's first trip was for Malia's wedding, which was, was he a month old?
Malia, when were you married?
Malia, chime in here. I feel like she was married in September. I'm forgetting now, but that means
so
that...
So like 2-3 months old.
Not even. He's the end of July.
Right, August.
So I think he was a month, 6 weeks old. So we traveled early with Leo. We traveled at 2 months with Kai because you had that conference in DC. And
how do you remember this stuff? You can't.
I'm the mama.
We can't remember what we had for breakfast yesterday, but
I remember
the first trip we took with Kai. Oh, I remember the hotel room.
Yeah.
Michael came and hung out with us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I just forget what I just said. I just remembered it too.
Yeah, 2 months for Kai and 6 weeks for Leo, and now 6 weeks for Noah.
But the funny thing is, I gotta tell you guys, it's so much easier to travel when they're this little. They can't move. All they do is do what Noah's doing right now. They eat and then they go to sleep.
They're not even on a schedule yet. When they're this young, they're not going to be affected, in subtle ways by jet lag. But for the most part, when babies are this little, they're not on a schedule. They're too little to be on a schedule. Yeah. They eat every 2.5 to 3 hours, period.
If you're lucky.
if you're lucky, sometimes less. But they're just eating, sleeping, wanting to be held, and traveling at this time is actually easier than when they start being more mobile, when they're awake more, when they have more demands.
So that's kind of just the first thing I wanted to get at is you get to determine the level of comfort you have with traveling at whatever age, but it's not true that it's really, really hard to travel with babies.
No.
There are some things you need to pay attention to, and Sophie was kind enough, nice enough, thoughtful enough to write these things down for you if you're traveling with a little one, like a little baby, tiny one. Like
so I'm going to write a blog post on Philosophy's blog, and we will link this to the show notes.
Dun, dun, dun.
So that you have a list, an actual checklist. Just so you know, I have a lot of different types of checklists on there. There's one for what to bring to the hospital. So if you have a friend who's maybe about to have a baby, I have like an actual checklist of what to bring when you're preparing to go have a baby at the hospital. I also have a newborn checklist. So what you need for a newborn, and it's really minimalist. So exactly how many onesies you actually need, exactly like what you need for the nursery, all of that is all listed on the website. So we'll link all of those different things for newborns in case you or one of your close friends is interested in seeing those like must-haves. I like keeping things simple. I've done this as my third time around, and it just keeps getting more and more simplified because I realize how much less I need, which is kind of the way that we are with traveling now. Like we've traveled this time with all 4 of us. I didn't pack Noah with us, but 2 adults and 2 busy boys that are getting big in one suitcase.
Yeah, one big suitcase.
One big suitcase. Hallelujah.
Oh, by the way, that suitcase did not show up when we landed. So there's a beauty in being efficient, and that is you have to be flexible if things don't go well. I'll chime in on that again. But
yeah, we'll come back to that.
Sophie packed like she's never packed before. It was amazing. I mean, I literally packed like 3 pairs of shorts for this entire trip.
Yeah,
and like 4
I packed
t-shirts.
one yoga outfit, and I do yoga all the time. So we knew we could do laundry here, and I packed really efficiently for all 4 of us, and then packed Noah's stuff on the carry-on, and then we lost our bag.
Thanks, Air France.
Awesome. We'll come back to that.
Okay, cool. So Sophie's got this list. There's no check list here in front of us, but it's she'll have
some
that
notes.
Blog post up. So here's some notes on little ones.
How to travel with a newborn. So I'd say the most important thing about traveling internationally with a newborn is requesting from the airline a bassinet. So every airplane that flies internationally has bassinets, a certain number of them, for the front row.
It's like the bulkhead row.
Exactly, the bulkhead row.
So if you've ever traveled internationally, you know that they have those splits where there's a little kitchen or little bathrooms in the middle. When you're in front of that wall, that's called a bulkhead. And each one of those bulkheads for each one of the seats in front, I think only in the middle maybe, has a bassinet that can attach to it.
Exactly.
And it's not there normally. You have to request it.
Yeah. And so the way that this works is it's first come, first serve. So when you're on the phone booking your airline tickets, or if you do it online, call them right after you book it and say, I'd like to request a bassinet for my baby that I'm flying with. I think the weight limit is 20 pounds. So we're talking maybe like, I don't even know, like depending on how big your baby is, but
don't let your husband sleep in it.
Don't let your children that are 4 years old sleep in it. No, they won't even let you. There was a baby flying beside us that was about close to 2, and they wouldn't let her put her baby in there. So just know this is probably for like the first year of life. But it makes life so much easier because whenever they're sleeping, you can put them in there instead of them being on your body. So that's my first tip is always request from the airline a bassinet. And then even when you call, they're still going to be like, oh, it's first come, first serve, but we made a note. And then when you get to check in for your flight, you ask them again there, and then they'll give it to you. I think, right? Then they'll assign it to you.
Well, it's a seat assignment.
It's a seat assignment.
So first of all, you have to ask, right off the bat, ask to be sat in the bulkhead
Exactly.
seat. Because if you're not there, you can't get it at all.
Exactly.
Then, let's say they have like 6 bassinets or 5 for the whole flight.
They'll see your request and it's first come, first
get
serve.
in there and ask for it as soon as you can.
You want to be a little aggressive because other moms are out there trying to have a nice flight too, and there might be more moms with babies on the flight than there are bassinets. So just know you want to like really make it clear that you want one. I
think this hits on another thing that I think is really important that makes Sophie not just a good traveler, but a good mom, is as you create this list and you get an understanding of what it is that you want, be clear on the fact that, yes, you're not going to get everything you want. No trip is going to be, well, some trips will be perfect, but it's hard to make a trip perfect. But if you're clear on what you want, you've got to ask for it.
Yeah.
Whether it's at a restaurant and you want to shift something in the menu, or you're on a plane and you want, like, first you have to be clear on what you want, and then you really have to know how to ask for it. Because if you don't ask for it, and we just had this with our trip back because everybody lost our bags, we called our main airline, Delta, and we were like, hey, we don't want to fly through that airport again. All our friends are losing their luggage. We're not going back through there again. And they were accommodating. But if Sophie would have never called and made the request,
we would have been flying Air France.
Still flying through the same exact route.
Exactly. Potentially losing our luggage again.
So really important in this context of get that bassinet. For those moms that already have had kids and those of you who are planning, you can't fathom the difference between holding your baby for an entire 12-hour flight or being able to let them sleep in a bassinet for 4 or 5 or 8 hours out of those 12 hours. It changes your life.
Yeah. So the next thing that's super important, you're going to be spending a lot of time when you're traveling on your own or with kids, but especially with kids, you're going to be traveling a lot within airports, maybe train stations, bus stations, in and out of hotels, maybe Airbnbs. You want to bring a little changing pad, one of those changing pads that you can wash off with just like a washcloth, or even throw it in the sink with water and some soap, and then just dry it off. It's so imperative because there's so many germs when flying. I think the biggest thing, honestly, when flying with a newborn or any children is that you don't want them to get sick. That's the only concern with a newborn, is that they have no immunizations. If you do immunizations, they have none of those yet, probably. Like, we have nothing for Noah yet. And the biggest thing is germs. So what you want to do is just protect that baby, protect your children. You don't need to put masks on your children, but you can. And more importantly, like, wrap them up when they're sleeping. Really wrap them up with a blanket. For the baby, like, I covered up her bassinet with one of my one of the swaddles. I just kind of covered the top of it and like let a little air hole in there, but really just kind of keeping her covered. Don't let anyone touch her. Constantly wash your own hands, because you're the one that's carrying germs also. And if you have other children, your husband, whatever, wash your hands a lot before you touch the baby, because that's where you're going to be transmitting all of the different germs. So make sure you bring a little changing area. Make sure you bring like something to cover when you're breastfeeding if that you need that. So either a swaddle. I love my breastfeeding cover from Native Wilds. I would bring 2 to 3 swaddles or blankets, because she or he will spit up on it, get dirty. You'll put them on the like different, just all the germs and everything. And especially for us, our 15-hour flight turned into a 30-hour travel experience.
Well,
with delays.
We knew we were going to spend 16 hours in airplanes.
Right.
But between we added 12 hours of layovers.
Exactly. And delays.
And
exactly.
So it was like 34 hours.
Yeah, we were like in Paris in a lounge after 20 hours of flying. By then, we had to change her outfit. We had to change, like the swaddle was disgusting by that point. Like, you have to have a lot of extra stuff with you. So I would say 2 to 3 blankets or swaddles. It's also really cold on the flight.
Yeah, you never know. You go from hot to cold. Just be ready for that kind of stuff.
Mostly be ready for cold, but also, just have layers. Tons of diapers and wipes you want to pack with you and your carry-on just in case. I had 3 changes of clothes listed here. Warm with footy, like make sure that their feet are covered, or bring little socks. Bring a hat, because again, it gets chilly and a lot of their cold and their heat escapes from the head.
Does it have to be a unicorn hat?
It needs to be a unicorn hat, okay. Absolutely. So make sure you take note of that.
Yep.
And
with the horn and everything.
I brought some essential oils. It just gets kind of like yucky when you're flying. With newborns, you can't really put essential oils on them directly, but you can put it on you or on their blanket. So I put some essential calming oils on her swaddle near her face so that she could smell it, and then on her pajamas.
Let's be real, you walked up to me and smeared it on my chest when you gave Noah to me.
Yes.
So that they would be emanating from me as you left her with me.
Exactly. And then essential oils are great for kids and for adults as well. So you can put these essential oils on the bottoms of your feet. You can put them, they're just really calming, and they're also great for preventing against getting sick. And then lastly, I put high nutrient snacks for possible layovers or delays. This is really important for both adults and kids. You want to have tons of high nutrient snacks. So yes, apples are great, like fresh vegetables or fruit are great, but it's not going to sustain you. So something like a Perfect Bar, we love Perfect Bars. They're really high caloric. And pretty high protein and have good healthy fats from nuts and seeds. So yeah, just make sure you've got tons of high nutrient snacks so that when you are having a layover or when you are in the cab heading to the hotel and everything in the airport is closed for restaurants, you've got something for you to snack and nosh on so you don't get frustrated, you don't feel hungry, and you can be a better parent and husband or wife and not be hangry. Let's be honest, it sucks.
I never get hangry. I get like what's one level worse than hangry?
A dick? Dick-like.
Alrighty then.
All right then, getting to that.
Travel's going well.
So anyway, also you want a good travel stroller. So this is good for up to age, like however old your child can be and still fit into a stroller, like shove their bodies in a stroller so they're not whining about walking everywhere. So maybe like age 3 or so. So we have been traveling in Israel with a yo-yo stroller. It's been great. I highly recommend it.
Thank you to my sister Shirley for hooking that up.
Yeah, so luckily we have some family in Israel and we could borrow some major things, which is so great. If you are traveling near family, definitely borrow some essentials instead of packing them all. It makes life so much easier. So maybe they have like an infant car seat you can borrow if you're renting a car. We actually didn't rent a car this time, but those type of big annoying things, you don't want to have to bring all of that with you.
If you can avoid it.
If you can avoid it. So if you're traveling near family or friends, borrow some books. Anytime we visit our friends, like we visit our friends Eva and Brian on the East Coast, I don't bring toys. I don't bring books because we just borrow it from them.
Yeah.
And then I'm trying to think what else. That's kind of it for newborns. I guess also the babysitter thing could also be for like a young baby. So another thing we do that gives us a lot of freedom and allows us to have a little bit of fun when we travel, no matter where we are. We did this in Paris with baby Kai Kai. We do this kind of all over. We hire a babysitter through the hotel. So this is going to be a little bit more expensive, but it's so worth it. For your sanity, you can get out with your partner, go explore as adults wherever you are. I would suggest doing this at least once or twice while you're on vacation, just because you don't want to always do everything with the kids. And the kids go to bed early for the most part. Of course, you can let them stay up late sometimes because you're on travel time, but it's just really important to remember that you're there to be a husband and a wife, or, a partnership as well. And yeah, so you can ask the front desk at whatever hotel you're staying at, or if you're staying in Airbnb, you can walk over to hotels and they have those resources. So just know you are not kind of stricken and stranded to being with the kids 24/7. You do have some, first of all, there's apps now in almost every major city. There are babysitting apps with really well vetted babysitters. Some are moms. So there's all kinds of apps. So we can share a couple of those apps with you that we've used. But I'd say just go to a hotel and talk to someone at the front desk or a concierge about a local babysitter.
Yeah.
It makes life a lot easier.
Absolutely. I mean, it's always made a difference in our vacation. Even like you said, like 1 or 2 nights in a 2-week vacation.
Exactly.
You feel like, oh, I got some time. Like right now the kids are at camp, which we'll talk about too. And so we got a little morning.
Exactly.
Just hanging out
we
with
went
Noah.
to breakfast and we hang out with Miss Noah. So that's kind of it for the newborn stuff. Sorry if I sped through it, but we'll put the whole list from a blog post on the show notes. I just didn't want to kind of bore anyone who's not interested in something to do with newborn. So we're going to move on to traveling with little kids. Is really not that much. Really the point here with bigger kids, I'd say like age 3 or 4 and up, is that you want to include them. You want to make it an adventure. This is something that you're doing as a family to build memories. You don't want to feel like you're annoyed. You don't want to feel like, oh, what's the point? There's no point in traveling with them because they make everything, more of a mess. That's not the point here.
Yeah, and that's probably a lesson that's not that different from the way we are back home. Yeah. Obviously, life changes when you have kids. Everybody knows that. But embracing those changes. But also, like I said before, we're not the, hey, wake up at 6:45 a.m. and hit all the sites family. And so, look, I remember being a kid And some of those things I loved, and some of those I just felt dragged around to.
For sure.
We definitely slow the pace substantially. Like a fifth of those sorts of things get done. Like when we're in Tel Aviv, we spend half of our time at the beach.
Yeah, but that's also who we are. We want that. Even if I weren't with kids, I would want to be at the beach all day, because for me, vacation is swimming in the ocean, you know, being one with nature, seeing the local culture. It's so cool to see that.
Yeah, and to be fair, we've been back here a lot. And so when we first came, we would go to Tzfah, we would go to like the Dead Sea. We did those things.
Sure.
But then you don't go do them every single time over and over. But when we go to a new place, we'll do a little bit of that.
Yeah. We explore, we go to museums.
But it is about absorbing the culture and really connecting to the people.
For us, when we travel with or without children, it's about living like a local. For me, I love, like my first trip to Italy, my dad and I stayed in friends' apartments in Italy. We, you know, traveled around and stayed in hostels and rented Airbnbs, and we go grocery shopping, and instead of eating out every meal, we make food at home and use local herbs and spices and flavors. And that's really what connects you, at least connects me, to wherever it is I'm traveling. Going in the outskirts, not necessarily in the main cities, but going in the outskirts and seeing how they live in little villages. Like, that's what inspires me. Going on a jog and getting lost. So that was like my jam in every city. I haven't been able to do that this trip because...
That's funny. I was going to say that. I remember that in Italy, in Rome for you. You ran and then you're like, oh,
I've literally,
I don't know where I am right now.
Literally done that in every city. When I was in Paris with my dad, ran, got lost, couldn't even ask for directions. I had this little map written on a napkin. I couldn't even understand it. It was all smeared. It's magic. That's the point of, to me, for traveling, is getting lost, losing yourself a little bit, and then finding yourself again in a new way, both metaphorically and physically. If you want to go for a jog, get lost. But yeah, it's just so much fun to explore new territories. And one of those ways is by like going for a long walk, going for a run, something like that. Cool. And yeah, living like a local. So if you are going to rent an Airbnb, which we highly suggest over a hotel,
love it.
A little bit of both. Like the majority of our trip this time, a week and a half, we were in an Airbnb. We went grocery shopping. We made meals at home. We saved money. We also got to, absorb local culture that way by going to little health food stores. Doing laundry every day. Holla, especially with babies. But then you can pack less. So if you have an Airbnb and there's a laundry unit in there, then you can pack, half, a third of what you would, because you don't need 16 pairs of whatever.
And we're in the middle of a neighborhood, so you walk down, it's the neighborhood.
It's a neighborhood, and you get to know it. You get to go get your bread at a certain place. You get my local juice every day at the same place. Like, it's really fun to live that way. So, highly recommend that. Another thing with bigger kids is making sure they have tons of activities other than screen time. So you're not going on vacation so that your kids are on a screen. That's obviously what's easiest for parents. We're not saying you can't use screens. We're not saying we don't use screens. We do, but we just try and limit it. So maybe it's a movie one day. Maybe it's an hour of, lounging and watching something. Even like turning on the TV and watching it in French, letting them be exposed to it in that way. It's so fun. We let our kids, obviously they speak Hebrew, but they don't understand it 100%. So, Leo will get frustrated that he's watching Hebrew cartoons, but we love it because then it means that he's being exposed to it. And it's just a whole nother kind of dynamic there.
I think the thing about devices, just like the travel, etc., is somebody asked this question directly, right? So if somebody asked this on DM, and they were saying, I feel sometimes like I overindulge on the vacation, from the screen time to the food that they eat, etc.
They just are saying yes to everything, even when they're just like at a friend's house. They just feel like they're always just giving in to their children just to make everything more peaceful.
Now, I just want to make sure, don't forget this is a vacation.
Exactly.
So we indulge, right? Like
we want to indulge on vacation.
An adult, I eat things on vacation that I would hold back sometimes from eating at home.
Oh, I've had real full-on gluten bread every day of this vacation, where at home it's more of a treat.
Yeah, and I don't work out the same way. Like, the whole point is to chill and relax. Now, different people listening right now do this to a different extent. Some of you live on vacation exactly the way you live at home, just in a different place.
Sure.
If that's who you are, that's what's going to be comfortable for you. But allow yourself that space to go, okay, to what extent do I want to let go of some of the things and make a vacation space different than regular everyday life? And
Absolutely.
then expect that that's going to translate to all the different areas, right? Like our kids essentially get no screen time at home during the week when school is going on. That's not going to happen on vacation.
Yeah, and we had a conscious conversation about that. Have a conversation about this. Ask yourself, like for that mom that reached out on Instagram and asked about indulging, do you want to indulge on vacation or do you want to stick to rules, or is there somewhere in between? For a D&I in the summertime, we make a conscious, we made a conscious decision together that the kids could watch more screen time during the summer than during the school year, because during the school year they watch 0 during the week because of they go to a Waldorf school. We'll talk more about that in another episode, but that's just the way it is. It's a non-technology school, so we really respect that during the week. But again, that's our balance, right? Some of those kids don't watch any screen time. For us on the weekends, we do. So figure out with your partner what's right for your children, what's right for you, and listen to that. Like, be conscious about it. Don't just let it passively happen. Don't just kind of passively experience, oh, now they've been doing 3 hours of screen time every day. We didn't want that. Like, really be the one in control. We're going to let you indulge. You guys can watch a little something every day, at least 30 minutes to an hour every day, maybe in the morning, maybe in the evening, whenever you're needing some time to decompress as parents. Maybe you want to take a little nap on vacation. Okay, well, your kids can't just be frolicking. They're probably going to be bugging you anyway. You probably need them to watch something on TV. So that's okay.
And what we also did is we bought a lot of activity books before the trip, specifically for the individual kid. So like Leo loves word search, and we knew that he loves word search. So we bought him some books
and mazes
that have a lot of that, and some mazes.
Yeah, Leo can't read yet. So we got him activity books that were good for his age, things that he cares about. And same for Kai. Kai loves math, and at school he doesn't do a lot of math since it's a Waldorf school. So we got him some books that we knew he would love. So we want them to get lost in activity books and reading and writing, but it has to be fun, and especially because it's vacation.
Yep. Now, here's something that I think is really important we haven't touched on yet, and that is this whole idea of like summer camp / activities at the local place. Now, again, Sophie and I go, let's say, to Israel almost every year, but I love this every time there's an extended trip. You don't do this on a 3-day trip to a city, but if you're somewhere for a couple of weeks, I love the idea of enrolling your kids in a local camp.
Mm-hmm. And this is also, sometimes insurance is different in different countries and you can't, but there are ways around all of this, right? Like there's some local woman in her home teaching an art course when you're in Paris. You don't have to go through like the school system.
Exactly.
Really do your research. Ask the locals. Hey, is there a local art camp around here? If you're in France, hey, is there a surf camp? Someone wants to teach a private swim camp,
food camp, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
So this time when we ended up in Israel, the regular camp that we send our kids to for whatever reason didn't work out, and we said, cool, what else is out there? And we learned about these surf camps. And I got to tell you guys, the kids, as soon as they heard this was an option, they didn't want to hear about anything else. They were so excited to go do this thing. Now, again, this speaks to the babysitting and all the stuff we talked about before. People feel like once you have kids, you're trapped. You're not trapped.
Nope.
Think creatively about ways to get everybody what they want. Our kids, have now spent 5 days learning how to surf in the Mediterranean, where the waves are nice and controllable, and the ocean is like bath water. And so, Kai's a little more sensitive to cold water and is sensitive to going into an ocean that is cold. That's why he doesn't do it in LA all that much. He loves it here.
Yeah.
So my kids have been in the sun, surfing and enjoying their summer like they wouldn't with us. Mm-hmm. That's the whole point, is I couldn't give that to them. I actually even joined one of their lessons once to learn how to surf a little bit myself. But
we would do this in LA. We would not do it because it's too cold. It's just not fun. It's not as much fun in LA because the ocean is freaking cold. So
think about what's the place you're going to. You're going for a reason. What is amazing about it? What could your kids experience that with other kids their age in a camp-like environment, not a sleepaway thing necessarily.
No, it could be a half day, a couple hours a day where they're learning how to garden in the south of France and going to a grape vineyard. And, there's so many beautiful things out there. And a really great thing as a resource is you can go on Facebook. I think these messaging groups are really, really great, these private groups. Some of them are actually public. Go to that local area and look for parents and ask them about local camps. That's a really great way to find out what's happening locally that might not be advertised on like the internet, for example.
Absolutely. So that all has to do with the activities and the places. Sophie talked about the newborn travel, etc. One of the things that almost everybody ends up having to deal with when you travel with kids, I mean, you do this with adults anyway, but as adults, we get it. Like if you get to a place that's on the other side of the world, you understand you're going to be a little bit off in your sleep. Kids have a little bit of a hard time with this.
Especially when they're set in schedules like our kids. Like our kids go to bed every night at 8 p.m., wake up every day at 7 a.m. Like that's just the way that their bodies and their rhythms work since they were little. So when we travel, it really throws them off. But again, focusing on being flexible as parents, that's okay. Yeah. Like do the best you can. Our kind of thought process with jet lag for us and for kids is when we get to the place that we're going, we try and stay awake as long as possible until that bedtime. So if we know that it's going to be bedtime, you know, when we land, we're not going to let the kids sleep. We're going to keep them busy, let them do screen time on the plane so they don't sleep on the plane. And when we get to the place we're going, they go to sleep. If we know that it's going to be like morning time when we get somewhere, we'll make sure those kids sleep on the plane so that when they get there, they're refreshed. We can have a whole day. And then they go to bed ideally around, if we can make it, if we can stretch it, to the bedtime that's there. So we just keep trying to inch closer and closer. And then on the flip side, when we come home, again, we try and just stay awake as much as possible when it's wake hours, when the sun is up. And then as soon as the sun goes down or as close to it is when we all go to bed. And oftentimes we're sleeping in the middle of the day because it's just what happens. At 3 p.m., we all crash. If that happens, we do our best to wake up and not just sleep all day.
Yeah, allow that to be like the hour nap so you can get your resources back. Now, those of you who have traveled a lot know, you know, the phrase is sort of a west is best, east is a beast. And so the idea is when you travel up time, like when you're traveling into the night versus on the way back east, it's a little easier. Your body somehow is better able to handle a shortening of the day than it is a longer day. And so one thing that's important to point out there is also, again, a theme for us on a regular basis is be flexible and understand ahead of time what you can and cannot do when jet lag just throws you into a loop.
Exactly.
It's going to take days to adjust. When we're at our best and we go to the other side of the world like Israel,
4 days.
It's 4 to 5 days before everybody's back on track. Now, honestly, the first couple of times we did this, we fought it like crazy. And we would try, when the kids would wake up randomly at 2:30 in the middle of the night, we try to put them back to sleep, etc. As we recognize that that's not happening, we started, I don't know if you remember, so I mean, I'm sure you remember, but like we would, well, you remember the first trip we took with Kai. So obviously you remember this, but like we would put them in a stroller and we would go for a walk.
Well, in Israel, especially in the summertime, actually like pretty much all seasons, it's warm a lot of the time here. So we would just put them in the stroller and go to the closest park and let them play. And there was lights at the park. So
like
they would
3:30 in the morning, our kids are going on a swing and, flying down the slides.
And then we have a snack when we get back home, and then they go to bed at 5 a.m. and then they sleep as long as possible. You know, if you just kind of roll with it. I've been waking up pretty much, well, I'm also breastfeeding exclusively, so I'm up all hours of the night regardless, and then exhausted. So
it is very exclusive breastfeeding.
Yes.
Yes. There's a VIP line and everything.
Yep.
One member.
Yep. She's like very possessive right now over this.
Yeah, and she feeds, I mean, again, because her schedule is off, she feeds whenever.
Yeah.
It's not the schedule like home.
Exactly.
So, but again, remember what we said earlier. This is vacation.
Yeah.
So if you're not...
I sleep in until, like, I go back to sleep in the morning, and then I wake up at, like, 10:30, and that's what works for me. And a D handles the big kids, and being flexible, being open, remembering that you're in this to have an amazing experience. You're in this to have an adventure. And the more you try and control... I think the takeaway here is being open, being flexible, because the more you try and control it, the less control you're going to have and the more frustrated you're going to be. We all have a perspective to choose here, and we're hoping that this can inch you towards a perspective of having fun and just allowing what is to be and going with the flow.
Yeah. You can't control the spinning of the earth. If you can, please DM us. We would be very interested in having you on
as a guest.
And then there's things like melatonin, and there's things like regulating. Just understand those things are all great. By the way, for those of you who are into melatonin, remember melatonin is not sleep medication, so you don't take it an hour before you want to go to sleep. Melatonin is a chemical your drug naturally produces
in your body.
It rises hours before you go to sleep. So the way to take melatonin is actually 4 to 5 hours before you're planning on sleeping to take it. If you take it an hour before you want to go to sleep, it's not only is it going to do nothing, it's actually going to screw up your sleep schedule even worse. So that's one thing to think about. But give it a few days and be flexible.
Be patient.
See
Don't
how
plan.
you can adjust the
if you
activities.
are a planner that when you want to go see a bunch of monuments or local things, don't plan them for the first few days because it's just rough. It's just really hard. Allow yourself to just kind of lounge around, go grocery shopping, make some meals, watch a movie.
And that's actually maybe a great idea. If you are going to plan sightseeing, don't plan the things that require tickets for a specific time of the day because you don't even know if you'll be awake during that time of the day. Plan to like walk in the park.
Yeah.
And then if you plan on walking in the park at 11 a.m., but you ended up doing it at 3 p.m., who cares?
Yeah.
You get to go do the stuff.
Totally.
The point for us, and you guys have tuned in for a while now, those of you for whom it's not the first time listening, every experience we create in our lives, we really try to not just make it an enjoyable, enlightening experience, but one that feeds us. So what we get out of the vacation in Tel Aviv and our annual vacations wherever we go, we're going to Thailand in December, is the whole point is to get things we couldn't get at home anyway. Because we love our life at home.
Exactly.
We're not trying to create the same thing somewhere else. I don't need to be in the office at 9 a.m. Savannah.
We're also not trying to escape our lives. We love our lives. We go on vacation to enrich our lives so that we can go back home with new lessons, with new perspective, and that's only offered to you through travel and letting go of the norm and your comforts.
Well, and the whole point, the reason you're going to a different place is to experience what that place has to offer.
And you don't know.
Immerse yourself in it and allow yourself to kind of come into it and experience it the way they offer it, not with your preconceived notions the way it needs to be.
Which is also why it's great to kind of let go of the way you are at home if you have that ability to the best of your ability. So maybe like you take up a local workout class. Maybe you eat more local foods because you know what? I can promise you as someone who's been lactose sensitive her entire life, and I'm sensitive to gluten, when I travel, I let those things go because usually, if I'm in Paris or Italy, that cheese I'm having, that bread, that pasta I'm having. And guess what? It doesn't affect me in the same way.
Yeah. In Australia, I can't have, I think it's Marmite. I think that's like their spread. They have this vegetable spread. Yeah. I cannot have that. But other than that, anywhere else in the world, I will eat whatever it is you give me.
What do you mean?
Oh, if you ever try this stuff, you'll understand. It's like, if there are any Australians, please send Sophie DMs on the reactions you've had from other people when you've tried to give them the stuff. It's like a spread only Australians can stomach.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's really interesting.
That's so funny.
But for us, it's all about having that kind of cherished experience, which actually brings me kind of to our relationship tip. And I mean, we can call this a relationship tip, but what it is more than anything is kind of a re-enlightening that we had watching this movie. Sophie shared something on Instagram about the end of a movie she saw, and it had a song in it, The Luckiest, which is by Ben Folds, and Ben Folds is one of our favorite artists anyway. Ben, if you're listening right now, we would love to have you on the show at some point. Obsessed with you. I was supposed to play The Luckiest on the guitar when we got married. I chickened out. I had the amp and everything, and all of our friends were hanging out, and I learned it for weeks so I can make sure that I got it right, and then I chickened out.
It's such a beautiful song. Check it out if you can.
So the song plays in this. The reason I'm going on this tangent, the song plays in this movie, and that's one of the things you pointed out to me at first. And then the next day, because we're on vacation, after the kids went to bed, we watched the movie. It is called About Time, and it's a little like sci-fi-ish in the sense that this kid time travels. We don't want to ruin it for you. We'll let you watch the whole thing. Rachel McAdams, is that who's in it?
It's a really sweet movie.
Very, very sweet movie. People who made Love Actually made it too. And but the point, one of the end points in it is, this whole idea of trying to live each day as if you're not being distracted, not being taken back by the little surprising things that didn't work out the way you want them to, but rather cherishing every moment. I'm definitely one of those people who gets trapped a lot in, I wanted things to work out this way and they didn't, so therefore the experience is ruined.
Exactly. Well, and then you ruin your own day.
And everybody else's.
If
we can be honest about it. And so what can you do, what can I do to bring this kind of fresh eye to the experience and say, okay,
I know the day is going to bring its ups and downs. What can I find that's joyful and incredible about every moment and just learn to cherish it? Yes, like Noah's little cooing, which we will cherish for every moment that she still gives it to us. And so I think with that in mind, Sophie talked about a lot of really great ways to prepare. I already said this, but the relationship tip is this. Do your best to prepare. Get educated, understand what it is you want to do, understand what everything should look like and how you want it to look like. Do the best you can to prepare. Remember, you will forget some things, and there will be some things that you won't be prepared for. And there will be some things you prepared for that will go awry. They will not go the way you want them to. Don't make the entire experience about trying to correct those things. Allow yourself to prepare the best you can and then go with the flow. And then try to even find something in the idiosyncrasies, something in the missed opportunities and the slips that is actually better than you could have imagined.
Yeah.
That actually gives you more of an experience, more of an authentic and real experience of life than you could have even planned for it. Because guess what? I don't care how good you are and how well planned you are. You cannot read the future. You do not know what's coming.
We had no idea we were going to lose our bags. But you know what? That first day we were here and we went shopping at a local mall was so much fun. We had so much fun as a family of 5 shopping. We don't allow ourselves to shop very often. So we went out, we went shopping, we went to Zara, and we bought some silly things. I bought a sun hat. I bought, and it was just fun. It was a fun experience that we wouldn't have done. We wouldn't have gone to the mall and gone shopping as a family because we would have had everything we needed in our suitcase, but we didn't have it. We needed bathing suits. We needed this, we needed that. So you need to get through the language. You need to figure it out. You need to get, everything is just, it's there for you. And it's there as an opportunity to grow, to learn, and to have some fun. That's what vacation is for.
Yeah. So listen to this thing. DM us, send us information about what trips you're going on and how this has affected your trips. And then let us know how the experience went. We'd love to hear about, oh my God, we prepped in this way and then all these things went wrong and we had this completely different experience, or everything went perfectly, whatever that is.
Or just we saw it with a different perspective, a different set of eyes, and had such a joyful trip instead of being so wound up. I think that would be a really fun thing to hear about.
Yeah, so DM us.
Thank you so much.
Up. Thanks for tuning in.
Please give us a review on whatever it is you're listening to us on.
Yeah. Tell us what you love about this.
Yeah, we'd love that.
Thank you all for tuning in.
Thanks, you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody, for listening to the Ignited podcast. We were so happy to have you along for this ride. Please go and subscribe to this. Leave us a review. We love hearing from you. And if you want more, don't forget to go to ignited.com, where all the podcast episodes are available with show notes and so many of the little details and links from each one of these interviews. And you can look at all the future events that we have going on, all the things that make Ignited so special, even beyond this recording. Again, thank you so much for joining us. We will see you next week.